Hi everyone, welcome to video number 17, and it's the last video on the Cold War, ladies and gentlemen. So let's bring it all to an end. Video 16, we were looking at what happened to communism in Eastern Europe, countries like Poland, Czechoslovakia, etc. And we'd seen that under the leadership of our old friend Mikhail Gorbachev, things changed. Communism came to an end in Eastern Europe. Oh, there he is, Gorby. Now then, what was happening at the same time in the Soviet Union? Or as the Beatles memorably once sang, back in the USSR. What was happening back in the USSR? Hopefully, this video will give you some of the answers to that. Now, remember, it's always important to think Gorbachev did not want to get rid of communism. He wanted to modernize it. He wanted to reform it, but he wanted to keep it. But he offered people the choice, the Sinatra doctrine. And in Eastern European countries, they chose to ignore and move away from Gorbachev's communism. Back in the USSR, what was going to happen? Well, ironically, Gorbachev was a very, very popular leader in the West. Western Europe, America, they liked what Gorbachev had done. In 1990, he won the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts to bring the tension down in the Cold War. So he was very, very successful over in the West. What about back at home? Would his communism still be popular? Let's have a think. Now, you've got to remember, the Soviet Union, there's the key word, union, was basically 15 republics, 15 different regions, all united together. The biggest and the most powerful was Russia, but it was only one. There were 14 other regions. Now, as we move into the 1990s, many of these other regions, looking at Gorbachev, Glasnost, Perestroika, looking at what had happened in Eastern Europe, these states or regions of the USSR said, I think we need our freedom. We need our independence. We need to follow the Sinatra doctrine and do it our way. So, areas such as Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, they're all independent countries now, but they weren't back in 1989, 1990. They were part of the Soviet Union. But they said, we will take Gorbachev's ideas and we will get our own independence. This was a problem for the Soviet Union because they're going to lose millions of people. Their country, the Soviet Union, is going to be broken up. Now, Gorbachev, remember, very popular in the West, not so popular at home. He was caught in the middle. There he is, right in the middle. On the one side, there were old-style traditional communists who were saying to Gorbachev, you've weakened the Communist Party. You are weakening the old Soviet Union. You have made a mistake. We don't like what you've done. That was the one side. On the other side, you've got the reformers, the modernizers, and they're saying to Gorbachev, yes, you've changed things a bit, but you haven't gone far enough. We want total freedom. And Gorbachev's stuck in the middle. Not necessarily a nice place to be. So, These states, for example, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and others, they say, we want our independence. Gorbachev didn't want them to go. So he says, look, stay with us, stay in the Soviet Union. I will offer you more power. You can be a bit more locally autonomous, free from Moscow control. But that wasn't enough for these new people who said, we want total independence. Gorbachev was weakened. So, Lithuania, March 1990, declares independence. This was very, very strange and remarkable news. Once one did it, others then followed. April 1991, Georgia declared independence. August 1991, Ukraine declared independence. What can Gorbachev do? He can't really stop them. The old style communists said, look, you have weakened the Soviet Union. You are a bad leader. And they organized a coup, a takeover. And basically, they took over the country. Gorbachev was arrested. Imagine that. Such a hero in the West. And yet here he is, arrested by what were known as the Gang of Eight, old style communists who want to take the USSR back to the way it had been. Gorbachev is in prison. So there is a coup. The old style communists say, we are back. What would happen? What did happen? Have you got any ideas? Don't worry. Riding to the rescue, Boris Yeltsin. Do you know anything about this man? Do you know anything about Boris Yeltsin? Well, he was a Russian politician. He did not particularly like Gorbachev. He was an opponent of Gorbachev. Remember, Gorbachev's in prison. Yeltsin takes to the streets with his followers. Thousands and thousands of people go onto the streets of Moscow to protest against the old style communist coup. The communists have put tanks on the streets. Well, Yeltsin goes and climbs on the tanks with his followers. It's obvious that the people of Russia are rejecting old style communism. The Gang of Eight quickly realized they've got not enough support. After 3 days, the coup is over. Gorbachev was released and returned as leader, but he's weakened. He's a man who did good things, but his time had gone. Yes, he's the leader, but really, the hero was Yeltsin. Look at the size. It's as if Yeltsin is now overpowering Gorbachev. August, September, October, November 1991. Gorbachev is the leader, but his time has gone, ladies and gentlemen. He cannot lead. The people do not want communism. Gorbachev's plan all along was to modernize but retain communism. Well, that wasn't going to happen. So, as we move towards the end of 1991, there we have the old communist symbol, the hammer and the sickle. There it is on Gorbachev. But as we move to the end of 1991, of course, it's Christmas time. Hooray! We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Well, it wasn't a happy Christmas for Mr. Gorbachev, because on December the 25th, 1991, Gorbachev resigned. There you go, Santa. There was no communist Santa in USSR in 1991. Gorbachev has resigned. Boxing Day, 26th of December, the Soviet Union was dissolved. The 15 republics. No, you are no longer one major superpower, the Soviet Union. No, go your own way. The Soviet Union was dissolved. Gorbachev became yesterday's man. Boris Yeltsin became the leader of Russia, the biggest republic. And he said, let's move away from communism. Let's introduce capitalism. Huge changes, ladies and gentlemen. 1991. Started by Gorbachev, finished by Yeltsin. So, I think most historians can say, by the end of 1991, Gorbachev has gone. Communism has been rejected in Eastern Europe. Communism was rejected in the Soviet Union itself, replaced by Yeltsin and his capitalism. The Cold War, as we know it, from 1945, after the end of the Second World War, the Cold War was over. There you have it. Hope the videos have been useful. Do some revision for your exams, ladies and gentlemen. All the best. See you soon.